Welcome everyone to session 13 of the story Genesis, as we continue to experience the unfolding drama of Joseph, his father Jacob, and his brothers. Today we will explore Genesis chapters 42 through 44. I invite you at this point to pause the video and take a few minutes to read through these chapters. Once you have completed reading through chapters 42, 43, and 44, you may restart the video and we will continue our exploration. Well, now that you have read this story, a summary. Suffering from famine at the beginning of chapter 42, Jacob sends his sons, with the exception of Benjamin, the youngest, to buy grain in Egypt, where his other son Joseph, the one who was thrown into the pit and left for dead by his brothers, is serving as governor in the government of Pharaoh. When Joseph's brothers arrive in Egypt to buy grain from him, Joseph recognizes his brothers, but his brothers do not recognize him. Joseph, however, refuses to sell his brothers' grain until they bring to him their youngest brother, Benjamin. He puts them into prison for 3 days. After 3 days in prison, Joseph then demands that they can all go back, taking their grain with them, to their father living in the land of Canaan, with one condition. They must bring their youngest brother Benjamin back to Joseph in Egypt. In order to guarantee that they would indeed come back with Benjamin, Joseph demands that one brother remain in prison in Egypt. The brothers think that they are being punished for what they had done to Joseph years before, though they still do not yet know that it is Joseph who is standing right in front of them. Joseph chooses his brother Simeon to remain in Egypt, giving Joseph's servants orders to fill the other brothers' bags with grain, to return the money that they had paid for the grain back to their sacks, and to give them provisions for their journey. The brothers load their donkeys with their grain, and they set out for the land of Canaan. Once back home, they report all that had happened to their father Jacob, including Joseph's demand to bring back to him Benjamin. Upon emptying their sacks of grain, they discover the bags of money that had been put back in their sacks. Jacob is overcome with grief, saying, "First Joseph was taken away from me, then Simeon was taken away from me, and now I am being threatened with having Benjamin, my youngest, taken away from me as well." Reuben, one of Jacob's sons, begs Jacob to let Benjamin return to Egypt with them, but Jacob refuses. As we enter chapter 43, the famine in the land of Canaan continues, and the situation continues to deteriorate. Again, Jacob and his family run out of food, and again, Jacob is forced to send his sons back to Egypt to buy more grain. In doing so, however, Judah reminds Jacob of their obligation to take Benjamin with them back to Egypt. Judah begs Jacob, offering that he himself could be held accountable if anything happened to their youngest brother. Against his better judgment, Jacob agrees, and he sends with his sons some gifts, fruits, and double the money that they owed for the grain. And so Jacob's sons, this time with Benjamin in tow, return to Egypt and again stand before Joseph. Still, Joseph's brothers do not recognize that it is him. Upon seeing Benjamin, Joseph is moved with emotion. He invites his brothers to his house to share a feast with them. The brothers are afraid that it is a trap. Simeon is brought out to them, and they are assured by Joseph's stewards that nothing bad will happen to them. They prepare their gifts to present to their brother Joseph, just in case. Having presented their gifts to Joseph, Joseph asks about their father, whether he is still alive. Upon seeing Benjamin, Joseph is overcome with emotion, and he goes into a private room to weep. Having regained his composure, he orders the meal to be served. Portions are taken from Joseph's very own tables and served to his brothers. But Benjamin's portions are 5 times as large as anyone else's, thus revealing Joseph's preference for Benjamin. Chapter 44 begins with Joseph again commanding his stewards to fill his brothers' sacks with grain, again ordering his stewards to return the money they had paid back to their sacks. He also orders, however, the stewards to put a silver cup, his very own cup, in the top of Benjamin's sack. After the brothers had traveled just a short distance, Joseph orders his stewards to follow after them and overtake them, accusing them of stealing the silver cup. "Why have you returned evil for good?" the steward accuses Joseph's brothers. "Why have you stolen my silver cup?" The brothers all deny that they had done anything wrong, which of course they hadn't. The silver cup had been placed in Benjamin's bag as a trap. The steward says, however, "He with whom it is found shall be my slave, but the rest of you shall go free." As they open their bags to be searched, the cup is found in Benjamin's bag. Judah and his brothers then return to Joseph's house to plead their case. Joseph, however, insists that Benjamin must remain to be his slave, while the rest of them can return to their father. Judah again pleads their case to Joseph, arguing that they had done everything that Joseph had requested of them, and then some, arguing that if indeed they had to return to their father without Benjamin, it would be too much for their father to bear, and he would surely die. Judah begs that he might remain as Joseph's slave instead of Benjamin, so that Benjamin might return to his father. There our story ends, at least for today. We will see how this story ends next week with our final session. But a few points to lift up. Joseph, at this point in the story, holds all of the power in his relationship with his brothers. Notice the tables have been turned. Joseph, back in an earlier section of Genesis, was a brother without power. He was the one who was thrown into the pit. He was the one who was left for dead. He was the one who was sold into slavery in Egypt. Here at the end of chapter 44, the story, the tension in it remains unresolved, and there is a lot of tension. The father still knows nothing about Joseph being alive, and the brothers know nothing about this being Joseph who is standing right in front of them. Chapter 44 ends with everything still wide open. Benjamin is in jeopardy, the brothers are all terrified, and the grieving father waits at a distance. In the midst of all of this tension, however, the narrator, and of course us, know that God is still at work. God is still in control. even though the ending of the story has not yet been revealed. Of course, the same is true for each of us as we live out our unique stories. We may not know how our story ends, at least in the moment, but we do continue to know and trust that God is actively at work in the story. Well, leaving a story with a whole lot of unresolved tension is no way to leave a story at all. And so I hope that you will join us again next week as the story of Genesis ends, as we get to the conclusion of the story of Joseph and his brothers.